there are various reasons why we're Irish. The fact that we're born in Ireland, the type of temperament we have, the type of country we live in, even the weather influences us. And I mean, if you want to prove it right, you can draw on all those things, but also our language comes into it.
I think basically our minds work more pictorially, and the mouths express it easily, more pictorially. Even last night, just a very small example crosses my mind. We had an American over, and I found him pouring martini into the gin to make a dry martini, and I said to him, "You've got a wrist for a martini rather like a concert violinist." It was so delicate and smooth. Well, there's nothing great about that, but I just found myself saying that, and I don't think English would sort of coin it that way.
A distinctive Irish way of life can be seen, for instance, at a Munster hurling final, or at a Fleadh Cheoil, at a pilgrimage to Cruach Pádraig. It can be seen in more everyday events in any pub, at a fair, any kind of gathering of people. It can be seen in gestures, the way people nod and talk to each other. People blessing themselves going by churches, for instance. This kind of thing expresses in an external manner, that is, if it's something to be seen. This is expressions of an Irish way of life.
I would think that when Ireland was part of the United Kingdom prior to 1920, Ireland presumably was a much more Irish place than Ireland is after having been a sovereign state, or the 26 counties having been a sovereign state for the last 50 years.
If you ask me whether I'm an Englishman or an Irishman, I would say an Irishman. But then we're a hybrid race in the north of Ireland. There's a lot in common, I think, in the way of life, north and south. I think, the more one looks at at this particular aspect of life in Ireland, the more common denominators one can see. There's probably much more in common in the way of life. Now, I'm not talking about politics, and I'm not talking about, obviously, about religious differences, but in the pattern of life in the country, there's much more in common between north and south than there is between, say, the north and the English rural pattern. That one can say.
What qualities do you think we have that show themselves particularly?
Oh, our qualities are chiefly qualities of humanity, warmth, imagination, sympathy, charity, things like that, but not brains. I don't mean we haven't got them. We've got tons of brains, tons of them, but we don't use them.
You once doubted there was an Irish culture.
I still doubt it. I certainly think it's, of course, a culture is never completed. In any case, it's a continuing process. But a specific Irish way of life couldn't be static. Once it became static, it would be dead. And it's questionable whether we have succeeded so far in even getting the outlines sketched in clearly. After all, we haven't had an opportunity to do it. We're not very young. Very young as a people who are able to demonstrate our potentialities. How young? Not, say, from Catholic emancipation or later, not much over 100 years. A culture takes 1,000 years.